We have an older Polaris in the workshop today, and we need to do a little maintenance to this thing. As a matter of fact, I'm just wrapping up maintenance, and I wanted to make a little video to show you what I'm doing. This happens to be something that you can do outside. Beginners can do it, and that's why I titled this video for beginners. I think a lot of times people look at these machines and they say, you know, they've never been on a snowmobile before, maybe they're a little bit mechanically inclined, but they don't know where to start. And here's a video for you guys specifically, people that maybe have never done anything like this, about how you can maintain your snowmobile. This happens to be a Polaris, and it happens to be a little bit older Polaris. This is a 2002 with the 133-inch track. I put a different track on it, and that was running along fine, but I needed to do some maintenance to it because as tracks break in, they stretch a little bit. I need to do some to adjust the track tension. So here I am, I'm adjusting the track tension, and along with that, the track alignment. So whenever you adjust the track tension, you're going to adjust the alignment. Similar to, I don't know if anybody maybe watching this is a woodworker, and if you have a belt sander, you know exactly what we're doing. So this is nothing more than a big belt sander. So what we have here, and the reason I'm focused on the back end, is in order to adjust the track tension. Okay, so we've got some tension on the track, and if it's too loose, the cogs that are supposed to be driving it will skip over, and generally that's bad. But too tight is also bad. You lose performance, increase parts wearing out. This is the Hyfax, so this white strip here is called Hyfax. And what we have on the track, we've got some track clips. You can see that is a steel piece, and then on this particular track, it skips. So we've got an area that skips, and then we've got another track clip. Those track clips are important because they help keep the alignment and also provide a wear point. So the track clip itself is technically it's a wear item, and you can wear these out, and they can be replaced. I use the track clips to help me set up the alignment. But before we get to that, to set up the tension. Okay, so what we have here, you can see that I've got this jam nut loosened just a little bit, and it's enough that I can screw this bolt in if I need to, or out, and that's all I really need. Now you need to read the manual, and so in this case, the manual says that 18 inches forward from this point, so right about here, without putting any weight on the track, I should measure about an inch and a quarter, between an inch and a quarter. And right now it's reading above an inch, about an inch and an eighth maybe, something like that, inch and an eighth. I will take that. That's about where I wanted to be with this track. If I run it too loose, then I end up with problems too. And that's why, that was the other thing I had, why I brought it in here, because I felt it was too loose. So I tightened this up a little bit. And so what I want to do is, especially if you're in the snow outside and you don't have any place to work, it's not heated, you want to get this over with so that your fingers don't freeze off. What I would do is take a tape measure like this, and I would just measure this bolt. So take, how many threads that is just like, what is that, 15/16 of an inch on this side, and then I would go over to the other side and measure that. Now that's a quick and dirty way of doing it. It's not exact, but it doesn't have to be. We're not there yet. So over on this side, yep, I got 15/16 there as well. And so we are set for distance. Now this is a rough setting. I'm going to leave these bolts just like this. I've got the track up off the ground. And and before you make adjustments to this, one thing I did want to point out that I always forget, and that's why I forgot to even mention it, but before you start adjusting this, loosen these bolts. So what you do to do that is get a socket or a wrench and put one on each end and give these a few turns. You don't have to take them off, and you don't have to get them really loose, just a little loose, okay? once you take these, what's happening is these bolts are pressing against everything and basically freezing these wheels in place, so they don't want to slide forwards or backwards. And so by loosening them, now you can adjust it forwards or backwards. Okay, so I've got the track tension about where I want it. The next thing I'm going to do is start up the snowmobile and run it. And because it's not, the track is not touching the ground any place, I'm going to run it maybe a couple revolutions. You want to make sure that the track goes around a few times, just like a belt sander. If you had a belt sander move a couple inches, well, that's not going to tell you whether it's aligned or not. You need to get that thing to go around a couple times. And so as it's going around, then you can either turn it off or set the parking brake and come back here and check. Now, what I do to check it is I check these track clips. So I find a track clip that's easy for me to measure. So here I can see that if I had two hands, I could pull this up here and see, and there's maybe about 1/4 of an inch on this side. And so then I would go over to the other side and do the same thing on the same lug. Pull that up, measure here. I got about 1/4 of an inch. And so had I, if that was all I needed to do, then I would lock these jam nuts down and I would be good to go. Again, especially if you're in the snow and you don't have a lot of time, you want to get this over with, it doesn't have to be perfect. If it's a few millimeters off one way or another, it's not going to hurt anything. All right, and the same thing with the tension. Get it close, put it back together, and go riding. That's the priority. So is it going to wreck anything? No, it's not. So just make sure that basically the Hyfax is running more or less with the same distance on both sides here, and that's how you set up your alignment. So now don't forget, tighten these bolts and tighten these jam nuts. All right. Now let's say, for instance, I did that, and instead of being perfectly centered, now this side was actually rubbing on the Hyfax. Well, now I know that the track is actually going, it wants to go that way, and I want it to go this way. I want to pull it this way. So I'm sitting right here on this side. This side is rubbing. I want to pull it this way. Got it? Pull it this way. How do I pull it this way? By unscrewing this bolt. Pulling this bolt back pulls the track this way. All right? Track this way, bolt that way. Okay? Unscrew, loosen this bolt, pulls the track this way. If, for whatever reason, this track was not very tight, so if it was still plenty loose and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go with it, I guess, then I would go to the other side and push. So the other side, if I'm going to push, I would screw in the bolt on the other side and make small changes. So, if this measurement was right, it's got to be close. So it shouldn't take a whole lot to if both of these, if this distance was the same on both sides, it's got to be pretty close. So I would think, half a turn maybe. So make it half a turn, and now release the parking brake or start the snowmobile back up, run it a couple revolutions, come back, check the distance. If it's pretty close to equal on both sides, then you're good. Tighten these two nuts, tighten these two bolts, and you're good to go. That's all you got to do. So that's my next step, is to start it up, spin the track, and make sure that everything is lined up just the way it was, and then I can tighten these bolts back down. Pretty easy, right? So for beginners, don't worry about stuff like this. You can do it.